A king falls asleep for a few seconds and wakes up shattered, no longer sure which of his two lives was the dream. That story opens this part of Garden of the Secret. This is part 8, and we come now to the third question. Who am I? We'll follow King Janaka into his dream. We'll watch the self we so fiercely defend dissolve like mist, and we'll trace the small I all the way back to the great I am that Moses heard burning on the mountain. So here is the third question as the seeker asked it. Who am I? Tell me. What does inner journey mean? Here the questioner asks Shabestari, who am I? Please tell me. The answer to the question, who am I, never comes from outside. This is not an objective matter, but a subjective realization. It's about the questioner, not the world. When it comes to knowing things and objects, we can use our intellect to analyze and make conclusions, whether they are right or wrong. But the answer to our own nature is not really an answer in the normal sense. It's more of an inner realization and revelation. It is an experience rather than a psychological process. In the quest for self-realization, one has to turn the consciousness inward. The great Saint Yogi Ramana Maharshi summarized all of this in one simple sentence. He said, "Concentrate on the seer, not the seen." Half of the work of finding who you are is actually finding who you are not. It is freeing yourself from the illusions and dreams and waking up to the truth of the real you. To show you what I mean, I want to tell you a real-life story of the ancient Indian king Janaka, who later became a great saint. Swami Shivananda tells it like this. King Janaka was once reclining on a sofa. It was the middle of the day in the hot month of June. He had a short nap for a few seconds. He dreamt that a rival king with a large army had invaded his country and slew his soldiers and ministers. He was driven out of his palace barefooted and without any clothes covering him. Janaka found himself roaming about in a jungle. He was thirsty and hungry. He reached a small town where he begged for food. No one paid any attention to his entreaties. He reached a place where some people were distributing food to the beggars. Each beggar had an earthen bowl to receive rice water. Janaka had no bowl, and so they turned him out to bring one. He went in search of a vessel. He asked other beggars to lend him a bowl, but none would part with theirs. At last, Janaka found a broken piece of a bowl. Now he ran to the spot where rice water was distributed. All the food had already been given out. King Janaka was very tired from the long traveling, the hunger and thirst, and the heat of the summer. He stretched himself near a fireplace where food was cooked. Here someone took pity on Janaka. He gave him some rice water that was found at the bottom of a vessel. Janaka took it with intense joy, and just as he put it to his lips, 2 large bulls tumbled fighting over him. The bowl was broken to pieces. The Raja woke up with great fear. Janaka was trembling violently. He was in a great dilemma as to which of his 2 states was real. All the time he was in the dream, he never thought that it was an illusion, and that the misery of hunger and thirst and all his other troubles were unreal. Self-realization is kind of like waking up from a dream, but in this case, it's the dream of the illusion of self, and nobody can explain it to you. They can only point towards it. But if you try to grasp it intellectually, you'll move away from it. Shabestari tries to point toward this truth, but he is not really trying to answer the questioner's mind, because that would be a merely theoretical answer. Let's see what he says. The absolute being, the cosmic consciousness, the divine spirit. When is manifested in this world, we call it I. Again, just like all true spiritual teachings, he is reminding us that the only way to know the absolute truth of the universe is to see it in ourselves, not outside. That's why he says this I that we identify ourselves with is a reflection of the absolute being, the great I, the divine. Ramana Maharshi always taught this. Find out who the I is. The I is actually a mirror for the ultimate, for God, for spirit. Here we're talking about the pure I without any attributes. Not I am this, not I am that, just the simple I, just pure existence, pure being, pure isness. First and foremost, there is I, and then comes I am this and I am that. As a matter of fact, when you experience deep silence in meditation or through any spiritual experience, you'll find yourself detached from the attributes and the identities, and you experience pure being. In the same way, for one to get closer to self-realization, one needs to concentrate on the I without assigning any attribute to it. Just I. Not I am good or bad or a doctor or a lawyer or poor or rich. As a matter of fact, any psychological identification with anything is illusion and a veil over the ultimate truth of one's nature. When one can stay with the I consciousness without the attributes, that is the beginning of enlightenment. Moses on Mount Sinai. It's written in the Bible that when Moses asked God, "Who are you?" God answered, "I am that I am." Most scriptures are written in a symbolic language and have a much deeper meaning than what people understand. Moses is also known to be a mystic. Maybe he never actually physically climbed Mount Sinai. Maybe he never really walked to a burning bush and there wasn't any voice coming out of the clouds saying, "I am that I am." Maybe this is all his inner mystical journey, when he realized that God is actually the I am, the existence in all beings. This is the exact same concept that exists at the core of all religions. I think that's why Rumi said,
I took the core from the scripture and left the skin for the donkeys.
This is a funny way he uses to compare it to eating something like a sweet watermelon and leaving the skin for donkeys to eat. Also in Persian, donkey is a word usually used to refer to someone dumb. This is to say, people who follow the superficial part of religion can never taste the sweetness of the core of their own being, which is the ultimate goodness and perfection. You may call it God, the divine, Buddha nature, and so on. Shabestari says that once you achieve true wisdom, you'll see that your true nature is that which is beyond body and identity. It is beyond time and space. Once you release all of your identifications with other things, including the physical body, the mind, and the identities, then what remains is just your pure I, your ultimate nature. Then he points to something interesting. all of the instructions of religions matter only because you have this ego. Here he is talking about the small I, or the ego, the false identity, and our animal nature. Because we are out of tune with our ultimate nature, and we don't intuitively see what is right and what is wrong, that's why religion exists. That's why the philosophies of religions exist. But the real book of religion, the one that shows the laws of the universe, exists in everyone's heart. And when you see it, there's no misunderstanding, no need to fight for it or prove it. No matter how great a written religion is, and even if it hasn't been altered over time, which is very unlikely, people will still misunderstand a lot of it. That's why we see so many so-called religious people do stupid things in today's world. Once one becomes free of false identities, in other words, free of the small self, the small I, then he will return to the ultimate nature of the universe, that great I. Identification is a psychological process. It traps a person inside their own psyche and prevents them from seeing their existential truth. So Shabestari closes this section by saying,
identity is a veil for the ultimate.
Man sees the duality in existence. Man sees the separate individuality and the many individuals because of this very identification. There's more of this garden still to wander. If you'd like to walk it with me, subscribe and share this with anyone whose heart is searching.